Hello and welcome to US Application. My name is Kutemwa Masafwa and this is our SAT crash course. Today we'll be looking at relevance and order in writing. So we'll look at the topics themselves, just break them down and look at their key concepts, particularly one key concept that applies to both of these topics, which is why we're combining them today. And then we'll also look at an actual SAT paper and answer actual questions and see how to apply that concept. So hopefully by the end of this video, you'll be able to navigate these questions without any difficulty at all. So we're going to begin with relevance and then we'll move on to order. And by the way, this is the Critical Reader Grammar Book by Erica Meltzer. I recommend it. It's very good and I love the way it orders the topics. So we're going to start with relevance and then move on to order. So under relevance, there are three kinds of questions that you can be asked. You can be asked whether a sentence should be added. So in this case, you're going to have an underlined you're going to have a sentence in the question. Then you'll be asked whether a sentence should be put in a specific position or not. And then you can be asked whether a sentence should be deleted or not. So in this case, you have a sentence within the passage and it's underlined. So you're asked, should it be kept or deleted? So for adding or deleting, you're not only saying whether something should be added or deleted, you have to give a reason for something being added or deleted. And then under revising, you're going to have 4 options of sentences. Most of the times you'll be given a topic, something to focus on, and then choose whether something should be put there or not, or choose which sentence is the most relevant. Okay, so the goodness about you having options where you have to choose the reasons is by analyzing the way reasons are usually phrased, you're able to tell what they want you to focus on. And that's what we'll be focusing on as well in this lesson. So these questions are quite common. You have about 12 questions per exam or 3 per passage, and that is a lot. So it's very important that you're able to navigate these questions. And as I said, the most important thing is knowing what relevance means to the SAT. Just what do they mean when they say something is relevant, which is the importance of you knowing what they want you to focus on. So all these are testing the same thing. Should the sentence be put in a certain position? Should it be added? Should it be deleted? Or should it be changed to that sentence? So here we have 3 steps that are very important and they kind of sum up what relevance is to the SAT. So we read the paragraph, briefly restate the topic in your own words, and then check each answer choice against that topic. So you don't necessarily have to follow these steps as they are, but they do bring up something very important, which is the topic in your own words. And I would change this to idea. So when you're talking about relevance, it doesn't depend on the question or the sentence itself. It depends on what is actually being talked about. Let's say I'm part of a conversation about, I don't know, ice lollipops, and then I just say elephants are fat. Like, it doesn't make sense according to the topic. But if I was in a topic about elephants, then that would be relevant. So what you're trying to consider is the information that has already been given to you, and that's the importance of you rereading. So you're going back and actually checking what is being said in the parts that actually come before this sentence, and then you're being able to get the idea. And I say idea and not topic because there's a very big difference between these 2 words. A topic is just the word that's being said the most. Like in that example I gave, right? We're talking about ice lollipops, but what is being said? Is it that maybe they're cold, or is it that there are a lot of flavors? What is actually being said about that? And that's what's going to determine your precursor, what you have before, what's going to help you determine whether a certain sentence should be there or not. And then you have to check each answer choice against that topic. So you're basically now coming up with your answer, right? Based on the idea that has been given. Do you have an answer choice that accurately reflects that? Or does that sentence do that well enough for it to be kept in the specific position that it's in? Okay, so when dealing with relevance questions, there are 2 things that are important that you need to ask yourself. The first thing that you need to ask yourself is the information new? So information that is being repeated is obviously not relevant. Why are you going to say something that has already been said? So if it passes that test, second thing you should ask yourself is the information relevant, of course, which is what this topic is testing you on. So how do you check whether something is relevant? We talked about the idea, right? Look at the information that comes before that sentence. And sometimes you also have to check the information that comes after that sentence. But the main thing is for a sentence to be put in a specific position, it has to have some of the sentence before it and some of the sentence after it. It's supposed to provide a good transition between 2 sentences. So that's the main thing that you're looking for. You're trying to see whether a sentence is transitioning well into the next sentence. And of course, to do that, you have to check the sentence before it and the sentence after. So if I was to give you my own 3 steps for dealing with these questions, the first thing is reread the sentence before. Reread the sentence before, and then make sure you know what the idea of that sentence is. And then you can check each answer choice against that topic. So in you determining whether something should be kept or deleted, you already have the topic in your mind. You won't have to spend time again figuring out why a sentence should be added or deleted. You come up with that reason in your head as you come up with the information. But the main thing is it should provide good transition. It should flow well from the sentence before to the sentence after. Okay, so when you're dealing with relevance questions, there are two main types of relevance questions. There are those where you're not given a focus, and there are those where you're given something to focus on. So when you're not given something to focus on and you're just asked, should this sentence be kept or deleted? You're looking at the idea that has already been established. Look at the sentence before, look at the sentence after, and then see whether that information flows well. And then if it repeats information, it's not relevant. If it just repeats and does not add any new detail, it is not relevant. And if it's off topic, just brings up something that has not even been mentioned, it's wrong. It doesn't matter whether the sentence sounds right. If maybe there are those sentences that you can be like, okay, maybe it can make sense. But as long as it does not have the sentence before in it, part of the sentence before in it, it is wrong. And that's very important for you to understand. You're looking at the idea that has already been established. Then the second type, you'll be given a specific focus. So here we have one kind where you're asked to take the entire passage into account. So sometimes you're asked based on the passage or based on the main idea of the passage, should this sentence be kept or deleted or revised? Okay, so the most important thing is to also know what the main idea is. This is the overarching idea, the framework of the whole passage. If you were to read the passage and summarize it in one sentence, that would be your main idea, right? So imagine you're asked to take the entire passage into account. Of course, this is writing, it's not reading. So most people don't really pay attention to the passage itself. You're not really trying to understand the passage. You're just trying to correct the mistakes that have been put, or you're just trying to make the passage better. So if you're asked to take the entire passage into account and you have no idea what the main idea is, you do not have to read the whole passage. There are key portions of the passage that you can focus on. The most important one is the beginning of the passage. Even in your writing, if you're writing a composition or a story, you're not just going to start out of nowhere, right? You're going to tell people what the passage is about. And so that's a trick that you can use. You can just go to the beginning of the passage and then see what is being talked about. And then secondly, you can also look at the surrounding sentences, like I said. Okay, so when you're dealing with the whole main idea of the passage, you have to make sure that you know what the main idea is, and then you know what the discussion going on is. So this gives you one additional focus as opposed to the general relevance questions. You have to check what the main idea of the passage is. And then some add or delete or revise questions will ask you to identify the information that best begins or concludes a given paragraph. And this is another kind of focus. You're being asked specifically about a given paragraph. Okay, so the most important thing about such questions is that you're only going to have one option that actually reflects on the focus that you've been given. This is not a matter of opinion. You're not going to have two sentences that have the same idea and then you're supposed to choose which one sounds better. This is not being tested at all, because that would become a matter of opinion. So you're just trying to see based on the focus that you've been given. So for you to be given that focus, it means that you have to focus on it. Yeah, so just make sure that you really take that into account. So if you're being asked about information that best begins a paragraph, of course, you're going to need something that talks about what is mentioned in the rest of the paragraph. So in this case, your main focus is going to be the information that comes after, right? What is being talked about, the idea. Does this sentence actually bring up, does it contain something that comes in the sentence after? And then if you're being asked about something that concludes a given paragraph, of course, you have to check it against the information that comes before that, right? You have to check the information that's within the paragraph. Okay, does this sentence actually conclude the discussion? Does it have the ideas that are in the rest of the paragraph? And that's what's going to guide you, right? Whether something accurately begins or concludes a paragraph. So like this part says, the information in the middle is what you actually need to focus on. So that is what you should really concentrate on, because like I said, there's only going to be one answer that will accurately talk about the ideas that have been mentioned. So apart from these questions that will ask you to begin or conclude a paragraph, you can also have other questions that will test the main idea in a less direct manner. So in this case, you have sentences that appear within a paragraph. Okay, and then you're given a focus as well. You're asked which choice provides the best transition to the information that follows. And when you're given this specific focus about the information that follows, you're only going to have one answer, as I said. So which choice most effectively sets up the example that follows. You're only going to have one that's going to introduce those examples that follow. So when you're given that focus, make sure that that's what you're looking at. Then apart from that, you can also have others that test a specific emphasis, not really about you setting up information, you transitioning from a previous paragraph, but just something very specific. Like this example that says the writer wants to complete the sentence with information conveying that honey can be affected by organic processes. Same thing, right? You're only going to have one answer that actually talks about honey affecting organic, honey being affected by organic processes. Okay, so what is your rule of thumb when you're dealing with relevance questions? You have to check, does the sentence contain part of the sentence before it and part of the sentence after it with good transition? But as I said, your main focus is the sentence that comes before, because that's what's setting up that sentence. You have to focus on the sentence that comes before it. And as you analyze, as you go through the question and see, as you come up with your own answer, whether it should be kept or deleted, you most likely already have the answer in your mind, and that's what's going to help you. So focus on the idea that has been established and what comes after. So after we look at order, we'll look at actual questions and see how to apply the key concept that we have looked at. So look at order. And I group these topics together because order is testing relevance, right? You're being asked, in order, you're going to be given a certain sentence or asked where a certain sentence should be placed in a passage, right? Should sentence 2 be moved before sentence 1? You're being asked about relevance. It's like asking you, should this be kept or deleted, right? You're just being asked about the placement, which depends on relevance. So same concept that is being tested. So you're going to be asked whether a sentence is correctly placed or whether a paragraph is correctly placed. So you can be asked about either sentence or paragraph order. And then it's very easy to know that order is being tested because you're going to have bracketed numbers at the top. So whenever you reach a paragraph and you find bracketed numbers in this form, it means that you're going to be asked about order. And then if you're going to be asked about paragraph order, you're going to have numbers in above each paragraph, which we'll look at as we continue. Okay, so sentence order. When you encounter a sentence order question, you should first determine the topic in the question. Does it sound familiar? You have to make sure you check what's the idea that is being talked about, and then you'll be able to tell what would follow logically from that. Okay, so usually for order, you just be asked. You're not going to be given a focus like which sentence would do this or would do that. You're just going to be asked where a sentence should be placed. So it's the same thing, except that you have to do it in a different order. So in this case, you're working backwards in a way, right? Yeah, if you're told where should sentence 3 be placed, it means that you're looking at the question based on sentence 3. So meaning the first thing that you should do is actually read sentence 3 and see what is in sentence 3. What is the topic? What is the idea in sentence 3? And then check according to the options. So where it is now, you focus on the sentence before. Same thing with relevance. Look at the sentence before. Does it actually contain part of what is being said in sentence 3? If it's not, check after sentence 1. So you look at sentence 1. Does it actually have part of the sentence? And like I said, it's not about it sounding correct. It's supposed to have the same idea. It is also possible that you'll be asked to identify where in a passage a particular sentence should be added. So in this case, you're going to have a sentence in the question, and then you're going to have a numbered paragraph, and you'll be asked where should that sentence be placed. It's the same thing as relevance, and it's the same thing as addition, except that you don't have one key position. Now you have to deal with order as well. So same thing, you're working backwards. Look at the sentence, look at its topic, and then look for an option that places it after a sentence that actually introduces that topic. Okay, then sometimes you'll be asked to divide paragraphs. This is very rare, but it's possible that you can meet it. So you have numbers within a paragraph, and then you're asked, where should a paragraph be ended, and where can a paragraph begin? So you'll be asked to identify the point at which a paragraph should be divided. Again, note that these questions have not yet appeared on any released exams. So it says, it puts it in this way because there was an old version of the SAT and this is a new version. And so there are a lot of differences between the old and the new. Okay, so the main thing to focus on is think what makes a paragraph, right? A paragraph should talk about a specific idea. That's what makes it a paragraph. So you have to check as you are reading through, where is there a shift? Where does the idea change, right? That's what's going to be your key as you go through this. And that's all you need. Just understand what makes a paragraph a paragraph. So you're still concentrating on the idea. Paragraph order, do we have an example? Here we go, where we have an answer right above. Okay, so if you're asked about paragraph order, I have made a bunch of paragraph order questions before. So you will be asked whether a paragraph should be moved and should be moved before or after, where should it be placed, is it in the right position? So this seems like a lot, right? You having to tell whether a paragraph should be in a position or not. But it's the same thing. You just have to look at sentences, right? For two paragraphs to flow well, the ending paragraph of the ending sentence, of the previous paragraph should flow well to the beginning sentence of the next paragraph. So by focusing on those two paragraphs, you're able to tell whether a paragraph has been placed in the right position or not. So it's just sentence order, but on a larger scale. And that's all you need to focus on as you handle order questions. So that's it, very short topic. So I'll repeat what I said. The main thing about relevance and order is a sentence flowing with the idea that has already been established? Does it have part of the sentence before it, part of the sentence after, and does it transition well? And trust me, that is all you need to handle relevance and order. So we look at an actual paper and see how to actually apply this information. So this paper is College Board Practice Test 1, and I really recommend that you take advantage of these materials, like I said in our first video of this series, because this is actual information from the test makers. So it really gives you a glimpse of how the paper actually is, and apart from that, you can actually download explanations to all of the answer choices, which is such a great resource. So we're going to just go through some relevance and order questions together just to see how to apply this information. So we start with number 2. As we can see, there are numbers, so we're going to be asked about order. So number 2 says, which choice provides the most relevant detail? So no focus given, right? And we looked at what to do when we meet such a question. Okay, so number 2 is right here. And it says they can add it to livestock feed as a protein. Then we have space. So it says which one provides the most relevant detail, and the relevance is going to determine on the discussion of the paragraph. So let's read the sentence before. It says, to address the problem of disposal, farmers have found a number of uses for acid waste. So we're talking about uses of acid waste, okay? So A says supplement, as a protein supplement, and people can make their own Greek style yogurt at home by straining regular yogurt. Doesn't really talk about acid waste. We look at B, it says, as a protein supplement, I can convert it to gas to use as a fuel in electricity production. Good. You don't even have to know whether this information is correct or not. The point is that it talks about an alternative use for acid waste, which is what is being discussed in the paragraph. So that's going to be our answer. That's it. Okay, so number 2 was testing relevance. And this is revision, where you're being asked which sentence is the best, depending on the discussion that has already been put forward. So let's go to number 5, which is the order question. It says, to make this paragraph most logical, sentence 5 should be placed. So what we're doing is working backwards. So if we go to sentence 5, it says, If it is improperly introduced into the environment, acid way runoff can pollute waterways, depleting the oxygen content of streams and rivers as it decomposes. Okay, so we're looking at acid way being introduced into the environment. Okay, so what are options? Where it is now? Let's look at sentence 4. It says they can add it to livestock feed as a protein supplement. The sentence was just from reading, and it wasn't talking about it being improperly introduced. So now, this is where that concept that I mentioned comes in. It may sound right? It may sound okay, where it's placed, but as long as it's not introduced, it is wrong. So what we're going to do is go to option B, which is after sentence 1. And sentence 1 says the main environmental problem caused by the production of Greek yogurt is the creation of acid way. It talks about creation, not disposal, not our answer. See after sentence 2. Sentence 2 says because it requires up to 4 times more milk to make than unconventional yogurt does, Greek yogurt produces larger amounts of acid way, which is difficult to dispose of. There's our answer. Okay, so talks about disposal, which is the topic, the idea of the sentence. So we skip to question 6, which asks about deleting. So this is relevance. It says the writer is considering deleting the underlined sentence. Should the writer do this? So we're going to read the sentence. It says, though these conservation methods can be costly and time consuming, they are well worth the effort. Okay, so now what we're going to do is analyze. We said the sentence before and the sentence after. Sentence before says yogurt manufacturers, food scientists, and government officials are also working together to develop additional solutions for reusing whey. So we've read about that in the previous paragraph. Okay, then it says, though these conservation methods can be costly and time consuming, they are well worth the effort. So if we look at the sentence after, it says, nutritionists consider Greek yogurt to be a healthy food. It is an excellent source of calcium and protein. Okay, so now here's our question. Should it be kept or deleted? So we looked at the previous paragraph, and this is a very good transition from the previous paragraph. And then it says they are well worth the effort, meaning that they want to continue producing Greek yogurt, even though it has harmful effects, right? Because it can be a healthy food. So should this sentence be deleted? No, just because it follows the idea. I hope that the concepts are making sense now. So it follows the idea that has already been mentioned. So your answer is no. You have 2 yes options and 2 no options. So now you're going to choose which one is the right no option. So no, because it continues the explanation of how acid whey can be disposed of safely. No, don't talk about that. D says because it sets up the argument in the paragraph for the benefits of Greek yogurt, which it does. So D is going to be our answer. Okay, 22. To make this paragraph most logical, sentence 4 should be placed. So we go to sentence 4. It says Box is currently organizing an expedition to gather this crucial information. So what is the crucial information? Expedition. Okay, where it is now, look at the sentence before. It says the pattern Box observed in 2012 may repeat itself again. That is very wrong. Okay, may repeat itself with harmful effects on the Arctic ecosystem. Does not talk about expeditions and information. Okay, so let's look at after sentence 1. Box's research is important because the fires of 2012 may not be a one-time phenomenon. No. After sentence 2, according to scientists, rising Arctic temperatures are making northern latitudes greener and thus more fire prone. No. Then D after sentence 5. The next step for Box and his team is to travel. I think that's enough, right? Talks about an expedition. Where is it? Okay, to travel to Greenland and perform direct sampling over the ice in order to determine just how much the suit is contributing. Okay, that's enough information for us. Okay, let's skip ahead, look at a few more. 28. Deletion. Okay, it says the writer is considering deleting the underlying sentence. Should the sentence be kept or deleted? Okay, so this is at the end of a paragraph, so I'm supposed to focus on the sentence before. Okay, let's start with the sentence before. It says, in these locations, however, the spaces often include small meeting areas and larger rooms for hosting presentations. And then the cost of launching a new co-working business in the United States is estimated to be approximately $58,000. Totally disconnected. I mean, it may sound right. Maybe it's talking about the right thing. We haven't even read the passage. But this is talking about spaces, right? Small meeting areas larger rooms for hosting presentations. But this just goes somewhere else and talks about the cost of launching a business. So even though maybe they might be talking about businesses, which I think this is a very good question, because it reinforces the idea of you knowing the difference between a topic and an idea, right? So even though the topic is the same, the idea is not the same at all. So this should be deleted. And let's check our options for deletion. C says deleted because it blurs the paragraph's main focus with loosely related detail. True, that's what we said, right? So in seeing whether it should be kept or deleted, we already had our reason. Okay, and D also is a very good option because it says repeats information that has been provided. Remember, there are two things that I said you should ask yourself. Is the information new, and does it provide relevant detail? So if it's not new, it is not relevant. That's very important. So I hope this video was helpful. Always remember, when dealing with relevance and order, you have to follow the idea and look at the sentence. Does it have part of the sentence before and part of the sentence after? I cannot emphasize this enough. And whenever you are given a focus, make sure you concentrate on that focus, because you only have one option that actually talks about that focus. So if you found this video helpful, please make sure you give it a like and comment down below if you have any more questions. I would love to hear from you. And also don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss out on the rest of the series to come. Thanks for watching.